Hello, hello, hello. I am Stevie Mills, and I am here for another conversation on The Conversation with Stevie. I'm so excited today because I've done a lot of interviews over the course of having my own podcast since 2011, but today is the biggest interview of my life. Why? Because it is of somebody who means so much to me personally and professionally. I've learned a lot about entrepreneurship from this individual, and he just happens to be my daddy. And you guys have seen him on so many stages, and you may have seen him on Cinemax. You may have seen him in a documentary. It's so great that I get to call him my dad. So without any further ado, let's welcome Mr. Fred Mills.
Oh, I didn't know you were talking about me. What's up, baby?
Hey, Dad. So what I want you to do is just to begin to introduce yourself how you would, and then we'll go over some of the amazing things that you've done and just have a conversation.
Okay. Well, probably, well, not probably, but before you were born, I was into music. And I'm still into music at the age of 69. But I've done a lot of things at a young age. When I was in high school, I started traveling and playing with different groups on my hometown in Reedsville, North Carolina. And that kind of opened the door for me. I was still between the church and on the road. And everything, I learned a lot from musicians in Reedsville, North Carolina. And unfortunately, one of the great guys that grew up with us playing passed away Saturday. And Mr. Aaron Bernard Brim, he was in New York playing drums. And a lot of people have come on my Facebook page, various friends and professional musicians, that were really, really shocked about his passing. Two that stand out to me was Mr. Ivan Hampton, Jr., who was Luther Vandross's drummer. He's in North Carolina now. And Mrs. Audrey Wheeler Downing, who was Will Downing's wife. She reached out to me. And, you know, it's really something when you can look back and say we grew up together, and he reached really, really great heights. And last time I saw him was in Brooklyn at the Billie Holiday Theater when we were playing for the Betty Davis documentary. And Erykah Badu was introducing the film, and I thought about that as soon as I heard about his passing. But you know, the music has been a part of my life and still a part of my life. From the very beginning, I started playing professionally for money in 1964. I was still in high school. And in 1978, by the time I got to 1978, I had been in the Army. I was a paratrooper, and I had gone to Vietnam twice. And I had come home, and I was in Florida, in Lakeland, Florida, and I got a call from Nicky Neal, who just happened to be the first cousin of Betty Davis, Miles Davis' ex-wife. And he called me and said, look, you want to go to New York? And I did that gig for about 10 years, and that's what the documentary's about. But in 1978, everything kind of changed. Because I met this girl named Stevie Mills. Stevie Aisha Mills. She was born in 1978. And, you know, she became my music. She became my song. I still play, but for a while I stopped, and I managed a nightclub in Greensboro, North Carolina. But me and Stevie, ever since she was born, we've been tight. We've been real tight. And you know, she's a great girl. She's a great woman. And as part of what I do, of what I was doing during that time, because I was 28 when she was born. And part of me was a musician father now, and that's a great experience. You know, your perspective changes a lot if you become a parent. And you know, she can tell you that, you know, we traveled. we moved from Roanoke, Virginia to Plainfield, New Jersey, home of the P-Funk. And you know, she's always at my gigs, first person to dance, first person to cheer. I mean, she loves Sweet Dreams, she loves Funk House, and she loves music, you know, just in general. And I don't know what she got that from, but but I'm really thankful for Stevie, and I'm glad she chose to interview me. And she did something else for me last year that was very instrumental in me getting ready to start a new chapter in what I do. She hooked me up to write a chapter in a book. And I struggled through that, but I did it. And now I'm beginning to start on my book, talking about this journey that I've taken in music. And, you know, that's basically it, Stephen. You know, it's me and you.
Yes. So this is incredible, because have you, like, when you were in Reedsville and you were growing up, would you ever have thought you would have the life that you've lived?
Not at all, not at all. You know, Reedsville is a very small town. As a matter of fact, it just celebrated my 50th high school reunion in September. And seeing some of those people and seeing some of the teachers, again, that came to the banquet, is, you know, you when you dream, you kind of dream things that you know. And being from Reedsville, to really, you know, if we really wanted to have a good time, we had to go to Greensboro, because that was where a lot of musicians were, and a lot of you know, A&T was there, Bennett College was there, Guilford College, UNCG, and I was always in the church with my mother, you know, and you know how Laureen was. She was about church. And I remember when I was about maybe 21, 22, one day we were just talking about things, and my mama said, you know, I knew you were throwing that saxophone out there window and going down to that club. And she never told me that, you know. And it kind of, you know, it surprised me, because at that time we were living next door to Michael Boston's grandparents, and on the other side of that was Michael Boston and his mother and stepfather. But I would do that, throw it out the window and go get it, and go down to the teenage club and do a set and then come back home. but other than that, I was in the 100 voice choir, and I was also in the Bethel Male Chorus. And that's, you know, where my foundation was in the beginning, until I went and I saw Nikki and them play one time. And I had never played anything. And I sat for a while, and me and Nikki was so tight that he had a set of bongos. And I just go up there and start playing the bongos. I play them on every song. I ain't care what it was. And then my hands started getting tired. I never forget. And I started playing with his mallets. And I busted. And he wouldn't get them fixed, because he told me, he said, well, look, man, you know, you be all right on the bongos, but what we need is a sax player. And I went to school at Booker T. Washington, and I joined the band. And they asked me what I want to play, and I said sax. Never played sax never really played anything. And once I learned the scale, I quit. And I went back to the club, but I quit the concert band part. I would stay in the marching band part because I didn't really have to play. They just needed people to make the formations. And I went back and I told Nicky and them, I said, hey, man, I play sax now. And they would let me borrow the sax, and I would play, and I was crazy enough to not realize the difference between alto and tenor. So one time they didn't have the alto, and I took the tenor, and I couldn't play nothing because all the fingering was different and wrong. But growing up, all I ever wanted to do was music. But I didn't have my eye on beyond Reedville and beyond learning other people's songs and playing them in the clubs until I came back from Vietnam and I went to Charlotte. And, man, the musicians down there, they opened my eyes to a lot of different genres of music, and it was a heavy jazz thing down there, but also an R&B thing. And then, from that, the Betty Davis experience was on a whole other level, business-wise and musically, the type of people that you run into, just about everybody that Miles knew, and even Miles talking to him, and different things. And, so once you get to a certain level, you understand how things operate and how the music industry is very treacherous when it comes down to business. Because every musician and every singer and every person that's out there performing have a love for the gift that they have. The problems come in when you have people who love doing business, and that's all they do. And a lot of times you look at people who have gotten cheated and ripped off in the music industry, and you just realize then that the business of music is very important. You got to have your business together, and from your copyrights, from your publishing, from your there's a lot of things to know that I didn't know when I got to New York, on a performance level and on a business level. But you live and you learn and you grow, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. What do you think you would be doing if you weren't a musician?
Oh, man. Well, some of the things that I have done, when we were in New Jersey and you were a kid, I used to substitute teach at Plainfield High. And I've done just about anything to keep my family right. I never really. A lot of musicians don't like to do day jobs. They like to just be musicians. When I had the opportunity to do that, I did that. When I didn't, I found work to do. Because I grew up priming tobacco in Reedsville, North Carolina. I worked at Cone Mills when I was in high school. But one thing I always did was I always played. Even when I went to Vietnam, I played in Vietnam after a while. After I got, out of the field, I would play over there. So, I do just about anything to sustain a decent way of living. But I always do music. I told a guitar player, a friend of mine, I said, you know, every musician or every singer would know that we didn't choose music. Music chose us. It really, you know, for me it did, because it just, I never studied, which I regret. I never studied music, and I just wanted to do it. And after a while, you realize how special that gift is, because how many people want to do something in life and get a chance to do it? You know, out of all the things that I could have done, all the jobs I could have had, I pushed them to the side to do music, because that's what I wanted to do. That's what wanted me to do it. So, you know, I've done a lot of work, but I don't think I would do anything but do music and sing.
And it's crazy, because I feel like entrepreneurship chose me. I always say that it was not something that I wanted to do. And so it's interesting how that happens. And, like, I think some of the experiences that you've had have been very just amazing, because it's not the natural. Even the stuff that I've learned as I've become an adult, stuff that I didn't realize and didn't know about when I was a child, it's just been an eye-opening experience to be able to see it. And we talked about the documentary, and I want you to talk a little bit more about that whole experience and what it felt like to see yourself on screen and to be just so many people drawn to the experience of watching it.
You know, Nikki and I and Larry Johnson and Carlos, I can't forget Carlos, who passed away to about a month before Betty's birthday. And it's his birthday as well, because he and Betty shared a birthday, July the 26th. And, you know, it's like we were doing things, Nikki was doing things, I was doing things. I went through my illness period, and all of a sudden, 40 years later, because I hadn't seen Betty, I hadn't talked to Betty, I know in at least 40 years, because once we were in Bogalusa, Louisiana, and we were doing her last album, and we were supposed to come back. I couldn't get to come back because I had to do some overdub vocal parts. So Nikki and Larry never gone, because Patti LaBelle was at A&T Moore's Gym, and I wanted to go see them because we had hung out with them in California. But that was the last time that I saw Betty, because once you come back, the record company didn't pick up the album. That was Island Records didn't pick up the album, and she couldn't get a deal. But she never called and talked to us about any of it. It was just like, what happened? So then 40 years later, this Phil Cox from London called me and told me who he was, and told him that he was told to get in touch with me because they were thinking about doing a documentary on Betty. And I said, oh, really? So then and they wanted to come to Greensboro to do do our part, the band's part, Funk House part. But before that, just, what was the name of that company? Light in the Attic. Light in the Attic got the things that we had done in Bogalusa. They bought them, and they did some reissues or release of the album that was never released. So that did a little interesting. But then after, it was about maybe 4 or 5 years after that, the Phil got in touch with me, and he came, and I was his Uber because I was picking up, taking the different things, and we shot our part at Boston's nightclub, and it was like, oh man, we're relevant again. I mean, it was really cool. Well, you were there at the filming at our part, and so from that, Phil got us gigs when they could afford us to play after the film, and that's when we got to. It was with Brooklyn at the Billie Holiday Theater when Erykah Badu, she introduced the film and then stayed for the film and stayed for us playing. And after that, I get another call from Los Angeles, and the guy said, well, look, my name is someone, I forgot his name, and I work with Mike Judd. And I say, Beavis and Butthead, Mike Judd? He said, yeah. He say, that in Silicon Valley. And Mike is doing this series of animations about, and this year we decided, this is I think the second, third season, that we want to do funk. And we're going to do all the funk. But we could only find one lady that was funk, and that was Betty Davis. And we'd like to come in and shoot y'all. And they came from California and shot us, interviewed us, and went back and animated us. And, you know, I'm a cartoon. I absolutely love it. And so, you know, all of the guys wanted to, man, we need to get back on the road. We need to do it. I said, man, look, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Let's enjoy it. Let's let's enjoy it now because we can't get out there like that. And it was real fun that we picked up Sadrina because she had been doing some work with me and Gary in the studio. And it was real special that Nikki's daughter, who wasn't even born when we were doing that, was singing with us as well. And so, the documentary, believe it or not, I learned a lot of things from about Betty, because the different people that I didn't know who were like being interviewed in the film. And I really didn't know that she really, the word she used was irked my house. And Betty was a very private, demanding person, and what made it a little easier for me, we were like family. The bass player, Larry, was her first cousin, and Nikki was her first cousin. Our road manager was her brother, Chucky, who passed. And me and Carlos, we were just like family, because everybody was from Reedville except for Carlos, but everybody had played with him, and so it was just, out of the blue that we became relevant again, and Betty, because it was really, really wonderful that Phil would come all the way from London to do this documentary, and he did a pretty good job on it too. And then to hook us up with the animation, that was great too. So I've been on Cinemax, and I've been on not the big screen, but the medium screen.
Soon to be the big screen, I believe it's going to be. So how does that make you feel, like, for people like Erykah Badu to know who you are? That's dope. Like, and of course, you're my dad, so it's even better. But I just think it's amazing. Like, if I was reading this story and didn't know who you were, I would think, oh my gosh, this is like you said, a once in a lifetime thing that people read about, and to know that all these years later, after life has happened, after all kinds of stages has happened, how does this, like, what was the feeling that you got to see all this?
Erykah Badu is so nice. I mean, she is just so laid back. and we were all in the dressing room talking and stuff. And Sadrina, what did she call? Tell her what Erica does is she, like, I think she called it something different than a midwife, but
a doula.
Yeah, Sadrina was telling she wanted her to bring her next baby into the world and stuff. So they were sitting back there talking about that, and at the same time, Michael Lane. Before I got with Betty's first album, the one with Brown Central Station and Buddy Miles and the Pointer Sisters, and all of them was on it. It was produced by Just Sunshine Records, and Just Sunshine Records was Michael Lane's record label, and he came back to see her. Michael Lane was the guy who did Woodstock, so that was like really, really, that was really crazy to be with all of those people like Erykah Badu, Michael Lane, and then he told us that, he's getting ready to do another the 50th anniversary. And he was going to call us to play Funk House. When he got ready to do it, some things happened as far as getting the site, and they canceled it. But then I think they put it on a month later when they were supposed to do it. So we just, we just lost touch. But you don't really expect things like that. I mean, we never kept in touch with Betty after she left, because Betty was, she left and went to Japan for a while trying to do some things, and then she came back and she was in L.A., and then she just dropped off off the scene. And I talked to Betty at least twice a month. I talked to her a couple of days before Thanksgiving, and she's just, she's just laid back and doing what she's doing. Nothing.
What would you say out of all the experiences has been the best one that you've ever had?
Outside of my two daughters being born. When we went to France. France was cool for me, and because when we went to France, there was a lot of we went. What was it called? It was called Riviera 76. Cause that's the year we went, and Michael Lane did that too. And
wow.
That's how we got on there, because Michael Lane did that. And what he did was he rented 2 planes, one for equipment and one for performers. And we was on the plane with Gil Scott-Heron. We was on the plane with Dave Lieberman. Who else was it? It was what's his name? Lenny White. And it was just a plane full of celebrities, that musicians, and the stewardess, they were really, really pissed off because you're on a plane full of musicians. All kind of things was happening, and before we got to France, I think the pilot said, "Okay, people are going to be landing so and so at a special place where you are going to debark and all this. But if you have any drugs on you, now is the time." And all of a sudden, all you could smell was reefer. That was an old word, reefer. But it was really great. That was a great thing. The only thing I didn't like about France is that when you go to restaurants, They're playing like they can't understand English. And we were trying to order food, and the television went off really, really early. I'm a television person. But to see all of those people there, and what was the craziest thing was there was a girl that played tuba in the band at A&T. And when we got over there, I looked at her because I used to hang out with all of them, and I said, Sam, that's what they used to call her. And she turned around, and then she said, don't call me that. But she was with the bass player for the Crusaders at that time. And, oh, man, there was so many people on. It was like a European Woodstock. And
wow.
that little bit that you saw in the documentary, that's where it came from. And so that was probably the best. And other than we used to open up for Graham Central Station a lot, and to be on the same stage with Sly Stone's bass player, I mean, he's a legend in himself. That was great. And then opening up for Parliament Funkadelic. I just saw George in July. Well, actually, the day of Betty's birthday, he was in Greensboro, and I went back and talked to him and his wife. And that was the main thing for me. I mean, when I was a kid, or when we was coming up, when I was a teenager, we were like heavily into Sly Stone, Earth, Wind and Fire, all of that stuff. And then you on the stage opening for them, or you doing. Even when we went to London and we stayed for a month, we were at the Premier Jazz Club in London. And we weren't playing no jazz. It was real strange, but it was, it was great. So I had a lot of great experiences, and the one thing that you always say is, "Man, I wish so and so was here." Well, you know what I'm saying? You can always look back and want to share those, and that's one of the reasons that I'm going to do this book for you. Lindsay, and the grandchildren, so that you can have some kind of sense of what I used to do, how I used to do it, and how I enjoyed it. So it doesn't really matter what you do in life. As long as you enjoy it, you put your best effort into it, hey, that's it.
What has been your biggest lesson that you've learned in life?
To be close to your family, to always look out for your family. There's a lot of influences in this world. There's a lot of ways you can go. But if you keep your family and God close, those are the most important things. Because when it comes down to it, that's really your backbone. Your brothers and sisters, mother and father, your spouses. You have to have some point of concentration to where you say, well, this matters. Out of everything else, this matters. So keeping that close is the most important thing I've learned. Those two things.
And what would you say to inspire people who are like you were back in your Reedsville days, and you're like, they're trying to get to that point. They're like, I can see this happening for me, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know what to do with their musicianship. What would you say?
First of all, you got to love what you do, and then once you get that settled, learn a little bit about where you want to go with it. Whether you want to be the church musician, or whether you want to be the gospel musician that records and things, whether you want to play jazz, whether you want to play top 40, probably if you're good at your craft, you know how to play all of them. But you got to kind of settle down and pick something. Then you need to learn the business of whatever you're doing. A lot of people, because it's so much fun, that people don't look, musicians, vocalists, they don't look at music as being a business. And that's exactly what it is. And it's a complicated business in that so many people have to have a hand in what you're doing or to make you successful. You can look at a lot of people on these television shows, award shows, the Cardi B's and the Kanye West, the what's my man's name, Charlie Wilson's, the Funkadelics, everything. They all have a place and they all have a business structure. And if you don't understand the business, you're susceptible to being ripped off. And, there are people who play and sing that are really, really good, and all they want to do is just do the church thing or do the local club. So you find out what you want to do, because there are a lot of talented people all over. That's one reason I left and was glad to venture out from Reedsville, because you can be in Reedsville and be the baddest person, a musician, a vocalist in Reedsville, but you go to Eden and there's somebody better. Or it may not be somebody better, but you have to go places and spread out to find out what's really happening. I went to Charlotte, and that opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And when you do that, it'll open up your talent. You can. I remember Grady Siegel, this friend of mine who passed. He was talking about this keyboard player that played with John P. Key. And we actually, when I was living with Grady, we stayed right next door to John before he even got big. And so he told me that the keyboard player, he said he has elephant ears. And Grady was a great jazz musician. And what he was saying was the guy hears everything. It's like you can play something and he knows where to put this chord or that chord, or he knows how to invert it or whatever. So once you learn that there are other people that are a lot better than you are, it doesn't mean that you can't make it. It just means you got to try harder. Or you got to get, and once you get your talent together, then start on the business, because you can be brokenhearted if you don't know what you're doing out there. There's plenty of stories, in the music world about nobody making money, nobody getting their money. Certain things you got to go through. So that's what I would tell some young people who are trying to do things. But see, it's totally different now. There was no Voice. There was no American Idol. There was no multi-track studios when I was coming up. Back then, it was like everything you go do stuff, and a lot of all the Temptation stuff. Well, no overdubs and everything. They all get in there and they play at one time or two times, but it's all at one time. Everybody, the singers, the background singers, and everybody. So just about everybody now got recording studios in their homes, and it's easier. Then you got people that press your stuff. You can get your CDs made and everything. So it's a lot easier to get your product together, but that next step is a hard thing to knock, because it's still only a few chosen people that will crack it. You know, it's almost like how many people are in the NFL or playing in the NBA. There's tons of people who think they're gonna, they can do that, and they have the talent. But music is harder than that because there are millions of musicians and millions of singers, and sometimes it takes that lucky break. I once told a guy, I said, look, no matter how talented you are, if you were Prince, if the people who got the record companies don't want to give up that money, it don't matter. If they didn't give that money to Prince, if they didn't give him advance and all that, he may or may not have made it, but his chances were slimmer because it's at the bottom line, it's still all about money unless you can do your own project. And then comes the hurdle of distributing it. Because if Atlantic Records say we're going to drop your album or your single on Monday, then Tuesday is everywhere in the world because they have that power. And that's what was holding a lot of musicians and performers back was distributing. I know two cases. Ready for the World. They got a deal because they cut their own stuff, and they sold it out of cars. Each one of the band members sold it, and once they reached about, I can't remember the number of that they sold, but they sold so many that they caught the eye of a record label, MCA, and then the other one firsthand. Because I used to one time. Well, actually, your mother and I went to Sting's birthday party at Studio 54 in a limousine. They had played at the Meadowlands, and it was his birthday, and so we were waiting, and then we got in a limousine and went to Studio 54. But what they did, what the police did, was they mortgaged the houses and put up everything they had, and they cut their own record, and they got everything together, and the only thing they needed A&M Records for was distributing. So they called the band was the police. They had a booking agency called FBI, which was Frontier Booking Agency. Frontier Booking, and something else that they had when they did the Girls, the Go-Go's, the label. Oh, the label that they had that they came up with was IRS. So wow. They had that thing, but they were getting paid so many ways because with the Frontier Booking that they had, FBI Booking International, they booked themselves. They were one of the tightest. I remember Marvin and them flying from New York to the Meadowlands in helicopter. They were, and then when they went on the tour with them, Ghost in the Machine. Oh Lord, you must have been. I don't know how old you were then, because we were living in Plainfield. But it's there's so much business in music. Sometimes if you're not tight, it can take the joy away because you have to watch. You have to watch. My thing is I just want to get on the stage and play. Right? That's what every artist will say. But, so then you got your manager. He get a little piece. You got the booking agency. You owe the record company. It's the business thing that you need to be aware of more than anything. Once you know that once you know that you got your craft together.
Definitely, because we've seen that with TLC, Tony Braxton, a whole lot of people who have been in the music industry, especially TLC. That movie broke down a whole lot of it. They went through the numbers of it, and you don't think about it.
Yeah, but what disappointed me in that is that Babyface in L.A., they came up through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they came up when they were with the Deal, and they were dressing like Prince and everything. And then the next thing, they had that song, oh Lord, that song that he was singing. But anyway, they got a hit. So I couldn't understand why they would take Tony and TLC through that. You know, when they were musicians and at the same time businessmen. A lot of people in the industry before were not musicians; they were just businessmen. You know, I could tell you about how this whole record thing was and stuff. Even going back to payola, when you had to pay to get your music on, and then I was reading this book once. It was called "Did You Ever Wonder?" And Barry Gordy was talking about how they would press maybe 10,000 records, and the guy who was pressing the records, I remember his name because he went to jail, he would press 5 for himself. And so they would look in the ads in the papers, the trades and stuff, and say, oh, man, we sold 25,000 copies or something, and they go get the money, and the guy say, man, y'all doing good. Y'all sold 15,000 copies. And then he said that was on a good day. He said some days they would go and they to get the money, and they put the $6 on them. Oh man, Morris Levy, that was his name, Jewish guy. He was the guy who was pressing most of the records in the United States. So they had the pressing plant. All right, so I didn't believe. I couldn't believe that Barry Gordy said this in the book, but he said, hey, they had to make a deal with the mafia to get their money.
Wow.
And, you know, so it was a lot of things that go on. Like Motown was about to go. They were about to go under because they were losing a lot of money, but they were trying to stay, you know. And so their major artists, the way that they got through this slump was they made Smokey Robinson president of Tamla Records. They wasn't worried about Marvin Gaye because he was married to Barry Gordy's sister. They wasn't worried about the Supremes because Barry and Diana was doing something, and they wasn't worried about Stevie because they had Motown and Barry Gordy had what was it? They took Stevie and made him under what's the word I'm looking for? Not his, you know, they were like his parents. So everything that he needed and everything that he got, Motown paid for. And that's what was a sticking point when Stevie became a man. He said, okay, what's up with all that money y'all supposed to hold it for me? And Barry said, well, look, man, you know, we put you through school, we fed you, we clothed you, and this and this. And I think he had made about, I want to say about $18 million, and they were writing a check for $1 million. And that was the best thing that ever happened to Stevie, because the next album that he did after that was the album called Music of My Mind. And I used to sit down a friend of mine's house named Billy Roach. Bobby was his twin. and we stand there and we would listen to that album and an album by this band called Osabisa. But, I'm saying there's just so much, so much stuff that goes along with even on a local level, going to play at Boston's or going to play at a country club and playing for a booking agency. But it's like this is what we love to do.
Wow. So we have a few more minutes left, and I want to definitely, what are the final words you'd like to leave us with?
It's music is a very wonderful thing. It's I asked a question one time on Facebook, and I couldn't get nobody to answer it. And I said, there are 64 people. They're all from different countries, and they all speak different languages, but they're telling a story, and everybody understands it. And I say, what's the answer? I can hear you thinking.
Music.
Actually, you're right. It's an orchestra, because music is a universal language and is predicated on math, on numbers. So, that's why everybody can understand. No matter where you are in the country, I can go anywhere and say, man, let's play Mr. Magic. And we can all, play Mr. Magic together and all at one time. It's the only thing you can do that you can communicate, and everybody's talking at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you singing a song or you playing some music. So I just I want to say that music has brought me to a place where I can feel really, cool with my life because I had music. If I didn't have music or if I wasn't playing music, I don't know if I'd be this content not being able to do it now. This is one of those things where you never know what it's like until you don't have it. But see, everybody loves music, and people that can't sing try to sing. If you hear, if you hear something that you like, you try to blow it out. But music is very, very important to us. With all the things that's going on in the world, a good song or a good joke, it can put you in a good place. Just think about the last time you seen a commercial on TV that didn't have any music. All the commercials, even the ones where they want you to donate, to different causes or whatever, and there was it was some commercials. What was those? It was insurance company. I said those are about the best things I've heard lately. And now I'm stuck on Joy to the World. Have you heard that in a Honda commercial?
Mhm.
You know who that is?
Who?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
yeah.
I had to research it because I love that thing so much, and I got the whole version. And the Pentatonics has one too. But music get you excited. It can get you sad. It can make you humble. We need more music in this world. We really do. I had another question I asked. Do you think it's more songs in the world or more trees? I have a lot of time on my hands.
Well, I love it because you're always thought-provoking.
Yeah. Last thing I'd like to say is that if you're a young musician or a young singer, do your thing. Don't worry about anything else right now, but just do your thing. Because the one thing that's about music that if you don't sell your song or sell whatever you're doing, if people don't believe it, and that's kind of like a God-given thing. A lot of people want to sing. Everybody try to sing. It's different when you play an instrument. Once you try it and you can't get it, that's the end of that. But singer has a real heavy load on them because, number one, every instrument has a key to that you press or you play, to make the sound come out. You blow it, or you playing the piano. You know where B flat is. You know where it is on the key, but you don't know where it is as a singer. It's like you almost hit it automatically, So we have when you're singing, it's a different thing. So you got to learn that. But then you also have to learn to sell the song, the emotion of the song. You have to take people with you on that ride. So, but don't ever stop. That's the worst thing you can do is to stop. As long as it makes you happy. That's my thing.
And it's God-given for you because you said, and I know you're self-taught. That's amazing to have been actually given, that's your it factor, to be given this gift of music. Like, that's awesome. And
it makes you think when a lot of people, I don't believe in church. I don't believe in God and everything. You got to stop and come out of yourself and see some things in this world that will let you know that it's got to be, you may not call it God, but it's got to be something, because there's too many mysteries in the world. There are a lot of things you can't explain, and there's got to be some reason that these things are here, or that you can do certain things. Now, how could I play music if I never took music, if I never studied music, but I wanted to play music? And so then I end up playing music. And then Stevie Wonder can kill me and he's blind. So you know what I'm saying? There's got to be a God-given gift somewhere. And it doesn't always have to be music. Some people have a God-given gift for typing. You can type faster than anybody else with no errors. Some people, like Bentley's God-given talent is mechanic. And, everybody's got a God-given gift, but a lot of times we don't exercise it, or we don't think about it. We think that, I can do this because I know how to do it. Yeah, but if you went to school and you learned how to do it, but if you there are a lot of cooks, but everybody's food don't taste good.
Well, I love you, Daddy, because you are my daddy, and I love you more so than that because you're a great man, and I appreciate spending this hour with you and just learning some things that I didn't know and being able to expose the world to some things that they need to know. So thank you, Dad.
Hey, we've never, ever, in your I ain't going to tell your age, in all your life, talk for straight hours. I enjoy it, baby. And I love you so much. And as I always say, right on, get down, be funky, and I'll see you in the funny, baby.
Yes. Like I always say, make it a great day. Don't have a great day. Make it a great day. Why? Because you, and yes, you too have the power to do so. And this is Stevie Mills, just Stevie, and that is, what's your name?
You ought to stop. Fred fucking Mills.
All right, guys.
All right, baby. Love you. Okay,
Love
baby.
you too.